If you're co-parenting with a narcissist, you already know that every single exchange feels like walking through a minefield blindfolded. One wrong word in a text message, and suddenly you're the villain in a story you didn't even know was being written. You're the crazy one, the difficult parent, the one who can't just get along for the sake of the kids. I'm Elisa Schwartz, and over the past 7 years, I've coached over 400 single moms through the exact hell you're living right now. I've been in your shoes too, sharing custody with someone who turned every pickup into a power play and every holiday into a hostage negotiation. And here's what I learned the hard way. You cannot co-parent with a narcissist the way the parenting books tell you to. Those books assume both parents are operating in good faith. But when one parent weaponizes every conversation, twists every boundary, and uses your children as pawns to control you, you need a completely different playbook. In the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to give you that entire playbook. These are the exact strategies that have helped hundreds of women just like you stop the chaos, protect their peace, and raise emotionally healthy kids even when their ex is doing everything possible to make that impossible. Okay, let's get into it. So first, we need to get crystal clear on what's actually happening here, because without this foundation, nothing else I'm about to teach you will make sense. So when I say narcissist, I'm not talking about someone who's just selfish or difficult. I'm talking about someone with narcissistic personality disorder traits. And the difference matters because it explains why normal communication strategies don't work with this type of person. A narcissist operates from a completely different psychological framework than you do. Where you want peace, they want control. Where you seek resolution, they create chaos. Where you protect your children's emotional safety, they use the children as weapons. And they're not doing this because they're emotional or out of control. They're doing it strategically. Every late pickup isn't forgetfulness, it's a power move. Every last-minute schedule change isn't poor planning, it's destabilization. Every time they tell the kids, "Mommy won't let me see you more," that's not a misunderstanding, that's parental alienation. These behaviors follow a pattern, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Now, why does this matter? Because once you understand that you're not dealing with someone who forgot to communicate or who's just hurt from the breakup, once you realize you're dealing with someone who is actively trying to destabilize you, everything changes. You stop trying to make them see reason, you stop defending yourself, you stop engaging in their drama. And that's when you take your power back. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, Elisa, I get it, but I have to deal with this person. We share kids. I can't just walk away. Well, you're absolutely right, which is why what I'm about to show you next isn't about avoiding them. It's about building a fortress around your sanity that they can't penetrate, no matter how hard they try. And that fortress starts with a strategy called the gray rock method. Look, the single most powerful tool in your arsenal when co-parenting with a narcissist is something called the gray rock method. And it's basically becoming as boring and unresponsive as a rock. And here's how it works. Look, narcissists feed on emotional reactions. Your anger, your frustration, your tears, your defensiveness, that's supply to them. It's proof they still have power over you. So gray rock removes the supply. You become emotionally neutral, factual, boring, beige. And here is exactly what I mean by that. Let's say your narcissistic ex texts you and says, "You're such a terrible mother. The kids told me they hate being at your house." The old you, the one who's giving supply, will respond with something like, "That's a lie. They never said that. You're manipulating them and turning them against me. This is exactly why we divorced." See what just happened there? You gave them exactly what they wanted: emotion, defensiveness, a fight. That response keeps you on the hook for hours of back and forth drama. But the gray rock version of you will respond with just 7 words. Noted. Pickup is still at 5 p.m. Friday. See the difference? The gray rock response is factual, brief, and gives them nothing to work with. There's no emotional supply, no drama to feed on, no argument to escalate. Now, here's what's hard about this, and I need you to prepare yourself for it. Every fiber of your being wants to defend yourself. You want them to know the truth. You want to protect your reputation. You want other people to see that you're not actually the villain they're painting you to be. But I need you to understand that you're not having a conversation with someone who cares about truth. You're dealing with someone who twists reality to maintain control. So instead of typing out that 12-paragraph explanation of why they're wrong, instead of sending screenshots to prove your point, instead of getting your friends to back you up, you just say, "Noted. Pickup is still at 5 p.m. Friday." And then you put the phone down and walk away. You don't refresh the message thread. You don't wait to see what they say next. You're done. Now, here's your gray rock practical cheat sheet that you can start using today. I want you to keep your responses under 10 words when possible. Stick to facts only, no emotions, no explanations, no justifications. Use phrases like, "as we agreed," "as discussed," or simply, "that doesn't work for me." Don't answer questions that are designed to bait you into an argument, and delay your responses because you're not their on-call emotional punching bag. If they text you something inflammatory at 11 p.m., you can wait until 9 a.m. the next day to respond with a neutral fact. I had a client who implemented Grey Rock for just 30 days, and she told me the first week was torture. Every non-response felt like swallowing glass. She wanted so badly to defend herself, to set the record straight, to make him understand. But by week 3, something shifted. Her ex started getting shorter in his messages because he wasn't getting the reaction anymore. The drama dropped off, and for the first time in 2 years, she had a weekend where she didn't cry over a text message. That's the power of removing supply. But Grey Rock is just the first layer of protection, because while you're neutralizing their attacks on the outside, there's something even more important happening on the inside. And if you don't address this internal piece, you'll stay stuck in survival mode forever, constantly waiting for something that's never going to come. And what leads us to the next point on why you should stop seeking closure from someone who traffics in chaos. There is a psychological trap that keeps most single moms stuck for years, and maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're waiting for them to finally see what they've done. Maybe you're waiting for the apology, the accountability, the moment they admit they hurt you and the kids. Maybe you're waiting for closure. And lovely, I need you to hear this with your whole heart, and that closure will never come. Narcissists do not do accountability. They do not self-reflect. They do not suddenly wake up one day and realize they've been the villain. That's not how their brain works. And as long as you're waiting for that moment, as long as you're holding space for them to finally validate your pain, you're handing them your piece on a silver platter. So, here's the shift you have to make. And I'm warning you right now, this is the hardest part of the entire process. But you need to do it for you to become free. You have to become the source of your own closure. You have to stop waiting for external validation and start validating yourself. Let me tell you about one of my clients, Rachel, because her story illustrates this perfectly. Rachel spent 3 years trying to get her narcissistic ex to acknowledge the emotional abuse. She saved text messages, she documented everything, she brought witnesses to mediation, she had binders full of evidence. And you know what happened when she finally got him in front of a mediator? He looked that mediator in the eye and said, "I have no idea what she's talking about. She's always been unstable." Rachel left that meeting shattered, not because she didn't have proof, but because she finally realized that proof doesn't matter to someone who rewrites reality. But here's what happened next that changed everything for her. Rachel stopped trying to get him to validate her experience, and she validated it herself. She worked with a therapist who specialized in narcissistic abuse. She joined a support group of women who had lived it. She read the books, did the inner work, and grieved the co-parenting relationship she wished she had, but was never going to get. And then she built a new vision, one where his opinion of her was completely irrelevant to her worth as a mother. Here's what I want you to write down, and I actually want you to say this out loud with me right now. Say, I don't need him to admit what he did. I know what I experienced. That is enough. Say it again. I don't need him to admit what he did. I know what I experienced. That is enough. This is where your freedom lives, Mama. Not in the courtroom, not in the perfect text message response, not in proving to him or anyone else that you were right. Your freedom lives in the moment you stop needing external validation for your internal truth. And I know that sounds like therapy talk, but I need you to really sit with this because it's the difference between spending the next 5 years trying to change someone who will never change versus spending that time healing yourself and creating the life you actually want. Now, does this mean you stop documenting? No. Does it mean you let him walk all over you? Absolutely not. It means you document for the court, not for him. It means you set boundaries for you, not to change him. It means you protect your kid's well-being without needing him to co-sign your parenting decisions. And when you make that internal shift, when you stop seeking his approval and start trusting yourself, something incredible happens. You stop being easy to manipulate. Because a woman who knows her worth, who trusts her truth, who doesn't need external validation, she's untouchable. And speaking of becoming untouchable, there's one more piece of this puzzle that most people completely overlook, and it has everything to do with the most important people in this entire situation, your kids. Now let's talk about your children, because here's the question I get asked more than anything else. Elisa, how do I protect my kids from seeing who their dad really is without bad-mouthing him? And this is where most advice gets it completely wrong. You've probably heard the standard guidance. Never say anything negative about their other parent. Let them form their own opinions. Don't put them in the middle. And look, I understand the intention behind that advice. You don't want to alienate your kids from their father. You don't want to be the bitter ex poisoning the well. But here's the problem with staying completely silent about everything. When your kids experience confusing, hurtful behavior from their narcissistic parent and you say nothing, when you just smile and say, "That's just how daddy is," you're teaching them that their reality doesn't matter. You're teaching them to doubt their own feelings. You're teaching them that manipulation is normal and that love looks like chaos. Silence in the face of their confusion isn't protection. It's actually a form of gaslighting. So, here's what you do instead. You need to validate their reality without trash talking. These are two completely different things, and the difference matters. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. So, let's say your child comes home and says, "Daddy promised he'd pick me up for my soccer game, but he never showed up." Now, the bad response here would be, "Well, sweetie, Daddy's just really busy with work. I'm sure he didn't mean to." That response teaches the child to excuse bad behavior and doubt their hurt feelings. It teaches them that their emotional reality is less important than protecting someone else's image. The trash talk response would be, "That's because your dad only cares about himself. He's always been selfish, and he's never going to change." That response puts the child in the middle and damages their relationship with their father, which isn't good for anyone. But the validating response will sound like this. "Okay, that must have felt really disappointing. When someone makes a promise and doesn't keep it, it hurts. Your feelings are completely valid, and I'm sorry that happened to you. See what happened there? You didn't lie to protect him. You didn't trash talk him. You just validated your child's reality and gave them permission to feel their feelings. You taught them that their emotional experience matters and that they can trust themselves. Here's another scenario that's even more triggering. Let's say your child says, "Daddy said you won't let him see us more. He said you're keeping us away from him." This one makes your blood boil, doesn't it? Because you know it's a lie. You know you're following the custody agreement to the letter. Your instinct is to defend yourself immediately. But the defensive response, like saying, "That's not true. I follow the custody agreement exactly. He's the one who canceled last month." And while that might be factually accurate, it puts your child in the position of having to figure out who's lying, which is an impossible and unfair burden for a kid. Instead, the validating response will be, "I can see why that would be confusing to hear. The truth is, we have a schedule that a judge decided on, and both of us follow it. If you ever have questions about our schedule, you can always ask me and I'll explain it to you. What matters most is that both Dad and I love you. You told the truth. You didn't engage in the manipulation. You gave your child factual information without making them feel like they have to choose sides." And look, age-appropriate honesty is not the same as bad-mouthing. Your job isn't to protect your ex's image. Your job is to protect your children's ability to trust their own reality. And I know this is hard because you want to shield them from pain. But the truth is, they're already experiencing the pain. Your silence doesn't make it go away. It just makes them feel crazy for feeling it. So, validate. Speak truth in age-appropriate ways. Model healthy emotional processing. Show them that their feelings matter and that they can trust themselves. Because that's what breaks the cycle. Not pretending everything's fine, not bashing their other parent, but giving them the emotional tools to navigate a really complicated situation with their self-worth intact. Your kids don't need a perfect co-parenting situation. They need one emotionally healthy parent who tells the truth, holds boundaries, and shows them what self-respect looks like. And lovely, you're already doing that just by being here, just by seeking out this information, just by refusing to give up on yourself or your children. So now you know the strategies. Gray rock to remove emotional supply, internal closure so you stop waiting for validation that's never coming, and protecting your kids' reality without bad-mouthing their other parent. These 3 tools alone will change your day-to-day life dramatically if you actually implemented them. If this helped you, share it with other single moms who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me which one of these 7 hit you the hardest. I read every single one, and I love hearing from you. And if you want more help with this, check the Surviving to Thriving Guide. It's basically a 6-pillar transformation system that's helped hundreds of burned-out single mothers reclaim their identity, energy, and hope, and finally feel like themselves again, be better moms for their kids, and create a life that actually feels worth living. I've put all my expertise working with more than 400 single moms for the past 7 years and made it available for everyone to benefit from. Take a look at it below in the description or in the first pinned comment. And never forget that I see you. I know how hard this is. I know you're tired. I know you're scared sometimes. I know you wonder if you're doing the right thing. But you're not alone. You're not crazy, and you're absolutely strong enough to get through this. I'll see you in the next video.